Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Living World of Darkness, Changeling the Dreaming, the Big Apple, I think, what they call it. Kingdom of Apples. Kingdom of Apples. I knew there was an apple in there somewhere. Um, this scene will be taking place in Dessa's library. A few people have been here, but Maxine wanted to talk, and Dessa has a nice, quiet place that has a library. So she's offered to meet her there.
And Maxine will be following her, driving in her very, very old Dodge Neon and trying to decipher her GPS's instructions to this location as best she can. Pulls up and knocks gently on the door. Don't want to upset the Slua by making a big racket.
And she'll open the door, gesture for you to come in.
Maxine comes in her civilian clothes, and it looks a bit different than her usual chipper self, a little less bouncy than she's been for the entirety of her existence. Hi, Dessa. Thanks for agreeing to see me.
Of course, my dear. Whatever I can do to help. Please come in. And she'll gesture to a sitting area. There's a few fairly plush, older, like Victorian style chairs and a Victorian style couch with a fireplace. And on the walls, they're just lined with really old books, like leather bound books. Lots of them.
I see you're beginning a collection.
I contemplated it.
Well, everybody needs a hobby, just as long as it isn't all consuming, right?
Exactly. A hobby's supposed to be what you do to pass the time, have fun, and relax.
I should get myself one of those, she says as she meanders over to one of the chairs and has a seat.
I'd offer you coffee, a hot chocolate, water, if that was something that I thought you might be interested in, but...
Oh, no, I'm fine, thank you.
certainly. And she'll take a seat across from you. So what's on your mind, my dear?
Well, it's been a hectic month, and we've been trying to figure out a lot of things, what with the anime or whatever those things were. I think that's what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Or, and we're still trying to get some business with Trods figured out. And I was a little embarrassed to say anything when I was asked, but I was entirely unaware that there was even an issue with Trods in the area. Something about them going dark, and anyways, we had a big field trip to a library, and I'm just lost. And I was just thinking maybe you know something about them.
The dark trods. I don't know a whole lot about them. They're not my specialty. Uh, I sent William and Misha to the Sual that I know that is the foremost authority on those. From what I understand, they lead. What's the best way to put this? Their pathways to more nightmarish locations,
Hmm.
which may not be where they originally went to. Either that place has become a nightmare, or the trods, ends of the trods are being moved. If so, by who and why?
Maxine nods. Yeah, it's kind of what we figured out as well. Unfortunately, and she pulls out a a necklace that like it's on a very long chain, so you generally can't see it unless she pulls it out from her shirt, but it's a treasure. It's an amulet. Um, and if you want to roll perception, I guess kenning, I can tell you more about it, I suppose.
Click there. Come on. Load up Discord. Changeling dice roller. Let's see. Need to be getting to that, so I'm gonna just assume that since there's no reason it shouldn't be approved, I'm just gonna go with the base, just to be
Okay.
safe.
Yeah.
3 successes.
Excellent. It's imbued with spring. Specifically, it's to help with memory. And so with that, Maxine starts her babbling in Puka. So they gave us this fancy jewelry, and it's supposed to help us understand, the mysteries of the universe, be what they may. And it's just not my usual style, and so it's been really, really weird having to carry this bit of information without a whole lot to connect it to. I am sure you can understand what I mean. I mean, Sloa really don't like to pay attention to the little ins and outs and little details and what's it's of stuff. You're much more broad, big picture kind of thinkers. I mean, from what I've understood. It, um, and she's obviously rambling on an uncomfortable tangent. Anyways, the whole thing is, without this piece of lovely accoutrement, anything I tell you that I've learned, you'd probably forget, or your head would explode. I'm not quite sure which.
She tilts her head like a very curious gaze now. So people forget what you've told them.
Well, very specific information is very hard to maintain without the proper bling. So it's very hard to do any research without accessorizing.
So am I the one that would forget, or would you be the one to forget?
Oh, well, I mean, as scatterbrained as I am, I can hold on to this knowledge. Unfortunately, I feel that it would be a bit distracting for you to hold on to what I say. What with the fizzy head explosions going on, metaphorical or realistic, again, I am not sure.
Interesting. Almost makes me wish I was a doctor. Could investigate. See how it truly acts. Is it a mystical issue, or
Well, it's a location issue. By the way, another thing I've been a little embarrassed to ask, where were the Dark Trods?
You'd have to ask William. As far as I know, him and Misha are the ones that have run across them. I think there've been 1 or 2 that I'm aware of. Possibly more.
Crap. See, they're the ones that I've been a little embarrassed to ask. Since they were kind enough to recruit my invaluable assistants. Did I say insistence or assistance? Anyways, they they were kind enough to bring me into the fold of their crack research team. And I just don't feel like I'm really carrying my weight.
Well, I could look through my books, see if I have anything that might shed some light on things for you, but Most of them would be dated far before this city was ever built. Might still get a direction of where they're at. We
Excellent,
don't have a
excellent.
lot of history before then, at least not from over here.
Well, you like books, right? I mean, maybe you should look at books with us. Have you been approached to join the team, the research team?
I have not.
Well, I mean, I don't know how busy you are, but maybe next time we make a family fun outing, we could get together.
I might consider that. And she has a very friendly smile on her face.
Thank you. Um, maybe I can look at your, look at your work because, you know, I'm behind on this class, definitely.
I'll see what I
Um,
can find for you.
so by this time you're able to see that Maxine's unseelie, but you should also you should also notice, I guess, she probably for the first time since you've or in the times you've seen her, she is not armed with her pistol like she usually is. So, um, and like occasionally you'll see her like reach down and realize she didn't pack it and like have that like moment of panic and then remembering she didn't bring it on purpose and then like bring her hands like to her side and that kind of thing.
I wonder sometimes if you're doing all right with all the stress that happened the other night.
I don't know why. I don't know why these things happen. I don't. What was she thinking? And she just kind of like
She was
looks.
probably trying to get you to keep from running off on your own into the mouth of whatever it was Lottie would have done to you by yourself. Because had your one shot not finished her, she might have done things that you weren't ready for to you in return.
But she's still there, festering in the cloisters.
Festering in the cloisters, still bound to Jean Baptiste, still bound by cold iron.
And are these things really like us?
No, but yes, they come from the dreaming. They're the, I guess you could say they are essentially the dreams of the trees, the rocks, the rivers. But then you would have to say that such things have sentience. Are they not then the dreams of man's perception of these objects? It's a tough line with what we know of the modern world. Perlance, yes, I could see it having some sentience, especially those trees that span large acres of land and their roots are all intertwined and then you can track messages sent between them. But rocks, rivers, how would we even know if they had such sentience?
They're weird. I mean, if they're the dreams of rocks and dirt and muck and weeds, then, well, how weird must we seem to them, right? I mean, obviously, humans are trash, but we need them. We are them in a way, right? I mean, but if you aren't connected to them in any way, then
With them being connected to anchors, particular pieces of rock or tree and such, it makes me wonder if they're that item's dream. Jean Baptiste was carved from a piece of stone. Now she is what's left of that stone's dream.
Maxine shakes her head. See, the whole thing is if they're sentient, I should feel guilty for wanting to take them apart and just utterly decimating them. But because they don't have that connection to humans, or maybe it's resentful after being carved and prodded and nailed and bolted. But I don't know. It's a lot to handle. I felt so guilty about
It
that
is.
bowl, and then I watched that cross burn without batting an eye.
Had she become true Fae, she would have warped the world around her. If such things are even possible. She could have. From the tales, it's quite the battles that raged for thousands of years between the dream and the nightmare. So
Hmm.
much history lost to us of our own lives before.
So much emphasis is put on history. And she kind of like looks around the room, the old books and stuff.
It is.
Do you ever worry that being overly concerned about our history makes us fail to think about what will be in the future or even the present?
That is a risk you take with worrying about the past. I suppose it depends on what you worry about with the past. Are you worrying about something that happened that you have no control over and that you can't change? Or are you trying to learn the lesson from it? Grow, move forward. That's really where the difference comes into play.
Our kind seems to be more interested in learning who should be the boss of who.
Yes. We've been having this argument for decades, if not centuries, perhaps millennia.
It's a
Who
bit
knows?
exhausting, don't you think?
It definitely can be. You have to be careful with nobility.
She nods. Did you? I've been asking a question, and I'd like to ask you if you don't mind.
Feel free to ask.
Imagine you had a child, your own flesh and blood, and somebody were to threaten that child with utter destruction. Would you put them on display for all to see, including that person who had threatened their destruction?
Is there a reason this person has threatened destruction? That's what I would ponder first.
Well, old boy Ed is neck snapped, so his motivations may be a little hard for us to understand, but. And she goes quiet for a moment.
If you fear the possibilities and refuse to acknowledge what you do have, then the person that you're fearing controls your life. If you put your child on display for everyone, including the person that has threatened their existence, then everyone will see when they take that child's life. And they will then pay society's repercussions.
But the thing is, someone's still gone. The fact that everybody got to see who did it won't bring back the Baroness. And if the child had been the actual target, it wouldn't bring him back either. Cold iron is permanent, or at
Yes,
least until we find a miracle, right? And she just
a
shakes her head.
miracle. Yes, it's permanent, and sometimes death is going to happen, whether you want it to or not. The humans that we live among live very short, finite lives, and we, bound with them, reoccur in these short, finite lives, even shorter than the bodies we inhabit.
She seems to contemplate this. Well,
I believe the saying is nobody gets out alive.
I prefer nobody wants to live forever. But I get what you're saying. Still, if that had been my kid, there's no way I would have been hosting a party in front of, you know,
We
the
didn't believe it was for the kid at first.
it was going to be somebody, though.
It
Somebody
was.
in that
We
line.
we didn't know who or when. We only
Also,
had assumptions and guesses.
we also had a moment between that arrow and that dagger, and nobody moved, Dessa. None of them. They just left it to us as this matter of fact, you better handle it, or you face the consequences. You feel the guilt. And boy, do I. And she looks just like this mix of sadness and just like barely concealed rage.
You did what you could. Yes?
It wasn't enough.
But you did what you could. I did what I could. I stopped the first attack some miraculous way. Don't get lucky like that twice.
He climbed down the tree
You
that
would have
I
jumped.
grew.
You would have just as easily jumped. I jumped and didn't seem any worse for wear.
But if I hadn't, maybe William could have gotten to him. Or why didn't they move? And she just,
Fear. Mm. You know how when people are driving on the road and there's a deer and it sees the headlights and it just stands there, struck with fear?
mm, yeah.
This sort of experience isn't something that most nobility are familiar with. They tend to sit at their parties, eat hors d'oeuvres, sip their wine. They don't have to see what goes on, the struggling, the trouble, the fighting, people dying.
Then by what authority do they get to call us under them? What authority do they have if they are so fragile?
Once upon a time, they had the dreaming support, created to be leaders from the dreams of what people envisioned a leader to be. Oh, so many millennia ago. That's not what they see leaders to be now, though. Leaders now are expected to be out there. That's why I'm curious to see what the Duke has, or the Count has to offer after the events that have occurred.
No doubt it'll be the execution of a man who is already too broken to move.
Likely.
Of
They
course.
may ask him, or they may inflict a final death upon him with his own cold iron dagger.
Is that justice? she
He murdered somebody because she didn't love just him. She's a Fiona. They never have good love lives. Well, she was Fiona. They have whirlwind romances.
And that is stuff of the dream as well.
It is.
I don't approve of what he did. Not even a little bit. And it's one thing to die in the heat of battle, being taken down while your blade is poised to kill and destroy. But to waste somebody who's already wasted. That isn't justice, Dessa. That's petty vengeance.
Would you have him waste away then? Unable to tend to himself until his body can bear no more?
Well, obviously, that is the more merciful choice, she says with like a
Is it
little
though?
bit of smirk.
Is it truly merciful? Mercy to let him live, to let him suffer, to let him be a vegetable, only control of his face, his voice, his mouth, left to feel pain, feel the loss, live with the memory of what he did to the woman he says he loved.
Well, that certainly is a punishment to make him suffer the world of loss that he's inflicted upon all of us. It's certainly far less upsetting to me than the alternative, I think. There's a
Would you
lot of
see him healed and let him die in battle then? Risk the
Maxine,
lives of
like,
others?
she sits up. Did they execute everybody involved in the Night of Iron Knives? I can't remember. My history's a little rusty. It was never my
Probably not. They aren't entirely certain of who all was involved.
And I'm willing to bet that not every changeling who's wielded an iron blade has met their fate at the end of some noble's, you know, vengeance. Maybe I'm
Probably
wrong.
not.
The thing is, and I know this is a very popular opinion to have these days, um, but I think the death penalty makes us all complicit in a murder. Those of us who stand by and say, yes, not enough blood has been shed.
You weren't there the night we came here and spoke with the Count, were you?
Um,
When we spoke of the Night of Iron Knives.
no.
William put forth an idea, a holiday, so to speak, for those that were killed in the Night of Iron Knives. And the Count countered, but what about all the children that were slaughtered in return? Neither set of people deserved to have been killed. So I said, why not? A day set aside then for all those that had been killed needlessly. If you died in battle that you chose to fight, then you died in your battle. If you were a child, if you went to a meeting to seek peace, you weren't there to fight. You weren't there to die. Those that needlessly died should have a day of remembrance, so to speak.
So, when this man is executed, will we remember him?
Will he be executed? If you wish, we can speak on his behalf for leniency.
We will be so popular for that. They will
Oh,
mark our names on the calendar in bright red ink.
do you know how popular I already am for having a historical cross burned to ash?
Well, it was an eyesore.
It was. All these young religions swearing, oh, we're the greatest. We're new, we're here, we're the only one, we're the only real religion. Look at us.
And they don't even have a chaos god. I mean, I guess there's Judas, but he's not really a god, and the only chaos really caused was, getting a little kissy faced at the wrong moment.
Yes, quite. Dog. Yes, it was quite the undertaking when they came into view. Those were some interesting days.
I don't think I was around personally, but. And she gives like a little shrug. Are you speaking from experience yourself?
A bit, yes. Most of my memories stir from back then. Ancient Greece.
What a ride.
Back then, most of the Christianized folk. Yeah, go. I'll just ramble on for a minute.
Okay.
Most of the Christianized folk at the time just claimed Christianity and the rightness of what they're doing because my God said so, so I burned people, I burned buildings, I killed people. Because my God says it's right, and now they're claiming he's a kind, just God, a merciful, vengeful God. Which is it, merciful or vengeful? Kind or just? Justice sees no balance between good or bad. Justice sees the facts. And justice can be quite an confusing topic at times, for vengeance often speaks louder than justice. It works so in our modern judicial systems. Most of your punishment for those who've committed crimes are vengeance, not justice. It's human nature to want their eye for an eye.
Maxine gives a 1,000-yard stare. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Mankind, their laws, it's mostly about vengeance and not justice.
How would you?
Penance for what they've done.
But there's always that slight dream of something better.
There is. Are you willing to fight for something better, though?
Well, somebody has to, right? Might as well be
Okay.
the bunny.
It is definitely something worth fighting for. Just make sure you're well equipped. Don't go into it unarmed, unprepared, because that's the fastest way to lose a fight. Unless, of course, you can just turn them to stone.
Well, unless you want to teach me that trick, I'm out of luck there.
I wonder. I could technically work you towards learning how to do that. And you could, in theory, do it uh, on the run at that point once you've learned the basics. But that's a lot of just letting the magic do what the magic will do.
Haven't had great experience with that, as my recent foray into interior design may have shown you.
It was a lovely staircase, though.
But not what I was aiming for. I was trying to go for more of like a chaise lounge sort of thing.
That would have been lovely up there.
Yes, especially if it had managed to really grab the attention of the intended target, as opposed to, rearranging the entire building. Whoops. But, first time for everything and all.
Oh, yes.
Next time.
Next time, yes. Hopefully, we're not having to stop a murderer like that again, but.
See, the thing is, Dessa, I do have to believe that people are redeemable. It's kind of what I do.
So it is.
And I mean, my,
Redeemable.
yeah,
Do you need to be redeemed?
me, nah, I'm perfect.
If only we saw that the redemption comes from the self and not from outside.
She just, she's been like looking down at her lap quite a bit, and she looks back up. The internal struggle. Yeah, that's an easy one for me. I mean, you spend so much time pointing your gun at bad guys. Well, the temptation kind of gets there to turn it on yourself when you feel you've gone bad, right? But I have the wherewithal to not arm my enemies.
Good. Strange seeing you without your gun.
Well, better than seeing me buried with it.
Such a weapon should be buried with its owner. Though
Yeah.
I pray that's not any time soon.
She's like staring at the floor. It's rough, you know? It's not even so much the people that died, but I pulled a gun on that girl.
You
I
did.
tried I try to be heroic. I try to be bold when boldness is needed. And I try to be merciful and kind. And I pulled a gun on her. What kind of monster am I really?
You're the kind that let her live. You didn't shoot her. You didn't kill her. All you did was shove her. I saw that much through the doorway. Praise the gods for large doorways.
Is she all right?
Yes, she seemed in good spirits for everything that had gone on. I'm pretty certain she incited you to turn back on her. She probably didn't anticipate the gun, but she did anticipate some rough and tumble because of it.
She is just nodding quietly. Eventually, I'm going to have to apologize to her.
And her to you.
No, I don't deserve an apology.
She forced you to turn on her. That's what
She's,
Clerk can't do.
yeah, but she's an innocent, you know? She didn't.
She still made you do it. She didn't anticipate the gun, but in the heat of the moment, you do what you think is right. You chose not to shoot. I believe that that was the right answer. You
Max
put your gun
just.
away. You made the choice to be the good person. Yes, anger was flared. I was surprised she didn't get into fights sooner than that.
I have to be better than that. I deal with people every day who would like to see me lose my cool, and I don't. I'm good at what I do. And she just, she looks down at her hands. I could have snuffed her out. And the dreaming would have been sadder for it. And the world would have been sadder for it.
She would have returned. It wasn't cold iron. The dreaming would have continued.
Yeah. I guess there's that consolation prize.
The world would have continued, sadder for a short time, but it always moves on.
As you say, the world would have continued. It just like any the joy and anything just kind of drains from Max's face for a moment.
It's a very sombering, saddening thought. You think you're making a difference, doing good, or you think that those that do will be forgotten, that the world will mourn for ages. Nowadays, they'll mourn for a few days, some for a week or two, maybe even a month. Beyond that, it's forgotten. The world can't move on, can't stay in one place, I should say. Individuals may mourn longer, but the world will always go on. The dreaming will go on.
See, we like to think that the world is this like whole unit. And it's this great detachment mechanism. I see it a lot at work. The guys will say stuff like, well, they should know better, or those people are scum. These broad strokes. And whenever we say the world, it's the broad stroke of humanity that we paint so that the rest of the world excludes us. But it's how many people are in the world now? Millions, thousands,
7.5
billions,
billion, I think.
give or take, right? I think the
Give or
way
take.
maybe there are 7 billion worlds. And if I would have shot her, I would have ended that world. And I bet there's people who love her. And it would have damaged so many of their worlds. And it would have killed me. And so that world's out the window. And then there's people who like me enough, I guess. I mean, just a couple, not too many. But that would have definitely put an upset on their world. You would have had to testify against me. There goes a little bit of a tilt and the spin of yours for a day. I mean, sure, many worlds would have gone on, and many worlds would have gone unaffected. But with a pull of a trigger, I would have become Maxine, destroyer of worlds. Destroyer of worlds in pointless, meaningless, fleeting anger.
But you didn't.
That's what people keep telling me.
And you don't do it every day. Every day you go to work, you don't kill somebody. I'd like to think of people more like a spider's web. Each point where the threads cross is a person. So when you cut those points, kill somebody, take them out, you pluck them out. Those strings that person is connected to feel it. Those that are further away feel it less. And those that are furthest from it feel it not at all. The web will be forever broken. It will never be the same, even if you put a new thread there. It's not the same thread. It's not the same person. Even should they have lived and come back in a new body, like we do, they would be changed, forever different. Because of that, any experience that affects a part of this web will leave permanent changes to how the web reacts. Whether the web gets tangled, burned, plucked, or gently caressed by the morning dew, it will always be changed, just like we will be changed. And we have to decide which changes we will hold on to and which we will let go. Many let go of that morning dew, letting it roll off and dry away. They don't know how to handle when their web is burned, when their web is plucked. Had they kept the dew, it might have protected them from the burn. You have to decide what effects on your web will you mend and which will you let roll away.
Maxine looks thoughtful for a moment. I don't know. I guess it's easier for other people to forgive, right?
Mm. Sometimes forgiveness isn't about you, it's about the other person.
But here's the thing. I can't ignore what I did. I can't just let it go. I can't. It's not a matter of, I'm being too hard on myself or I need to repair or let it roll or I cannot. I have to acknowledge that there is some part of me that I would.
So if
I
she
wasn't.
controlled you with magic, made you draw your gun on her, would you still hold the blame on yourself?
I had the gun. I
You
had
did.
intended, and whether or not she incited me to anger, I should have fought myself harder. I should have. I should have done something. And she's just like, her eyes are red because she's beating herself up pretty bad over this whole thing. I don't think she pulled something out of me that wouldn't be there. She just managed to redirect it. I was going after that kid to destroy her. I had already shot at her. And I get I hear people say, but you didn't kill her, but you didn't shoot her. But I shot someone because I was angry. And that isn't justice. And so Alice, I think her name is, turns my anger in a different direction. But it was already there, you know? And this isn't something that saying a few Hail Marys while on my knees is going to wash away. This is going to be with me, I think, forever.
That's very possible. This is the first time you've ever shot somebody, isn't it?
Maxine looks like she's about to say something and just closes her mouth. Do you have to use special conditioner for the snakes, or do they not mind regular shampoo?
Oh, they have a special dreaming shampoo that I have to use. Otherwise, they start shedding and it just gets built up on the scalp. It's horrific.
I bet that is some amazing dandruff to behold.
Yes. The worst was when they all started to shed at once, and I was like, really? I'm supposed to be going through my thesis project right now. I don't have time for 25 snakes shedding on my head.
Goodness.
Because while it may not be there in the world outside, their skin falling off and onto my papers and my keyboard and everything when I'm trying to work is very distracting.
No, I get it. That's why I don't wear earrings. She says as she just like moves her ears back and forth.
I hadn't considered that. Earrings.
Yeah, not a lot of people do.
Are they too heavy on the tips or
See, that's the thing. I don't know if I would wear them on the tips. But,
mm,
I feel like putting them on the lobes would be a little weird because
you could do a few up the thicker outer membrane of the ear.
I suppose, but then I'd have to invest in some sort of like chimerical jewelry, and I like to keep it fast and loose. Plus, as a puka, being able to blend in with the countless other jackrabbits of New York City gives me an advantage. As soon as I start putting earrings in it, they're going to know it's me right away.
Clip-ons. Quick and easy to remove.
Now, there is a novel idea. As soon as I can find somebody who will craft me some chimerical clip ons, I am good to go.
Have you met Minerva?
I have. Minerva is currently working on an AV project for me.
She could probably make you earrings as well.
I should discuss that with her. Probably between takes.
Right, she's doing the porn camera thing for you.
Oh, good lord, how far has this spread?
I was there when we were discussing it
Oh,
at
god, you
the
were.
Vixen.
The night's all kind of a blur to me. It got away from me. I wasn't expecting this.
It's quite an interesting idea.
I mean, I suppose it has potential, but you just kind of belonging to my kith. you kind of get used to people just rolling their eyes when you say things. And so you just keep saying things. And so when somebody starts listening, you know, it's a little unnerving.
Hmm. I tend to find listening to Puka quite enlightening.
You must enjoy puzzles. Do you play Sudoku?
I do. I have it on my phone, actually.
See, it makes sense then. Pukas are Sudoku.
They are. I used to know a cat, Puka, once, back home in upper New York, upstate New York. She was a strange one. Insisted she had to lay in the sun at least for an hour every day. And yet
Well,
she seemed to be up at all hours of the day and night.
it's a little known fact that all cat puka are solar powered.
Solar powered.
It's
That makes
true.
more sense then.
True as my ears are long.
I'm half tempted to believe that.
She just kind of giggles to herself. Well, Dessa, it has been an educational experience. I've learned a lot. I feel like I'm ready to face these dark trods with what I know, having learned so much here. But I definitely think that the next time we go on an outing, perhaps it would benefit you as much as me if you come with us.
I would be delighted.
Fantastic. I guess I should be heading back now. It's getting pretty late.
It is.
I
If you
think
ever want to come by and have coffee or tea or water or anything, and just talk or sit, you're welcome to. Or read a book. There's plenty to choose from. I think I even have some in English.
oh well. Where's the challenge in reading a book in English?
It's far less challenging than reading it in Sumerian.
I guess if your goal is to understand what you're reading. If your goal is to just move your eyes across a page in a reading like fashion, then I mean, I suppose you could probably flip through a Sumerian book even faster because you wouldn't have to be absorbing anything.
Mm.
It's,
But they have such strange and interesting symbols.
I I couldn't pick Sumerian out of a lineup.
Most people couldn't.
I wonder what crimes it's guilty of then.
Hmm. Well, seeing as it was around pre uh, law systems that we would consider legal systems by today's day and age, probably quite many.
The perfect crime. She shakes her head and stands up and puts her purse on her shoulder. I will be in touch. And next time we have our field trip, make sure your permission slip is signed.
I will do that.
Thanks for talking with me, Dessa.
You're very welcome.
Maxine heads out. And after it like her car is just garbage. So it's like 15 minutes or so of before it starts and she heads out.
And Dessa will go and drink some coffee, staring out the window, contemplating things that she's heard tonight, finding the glimmers of truth in the Puka's words.